Welcome to Women of the World, a show which gives voice to women from around the world who have chosen to make the United States their home. Moderating today is Janga.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Women of the World show, a show that gives voice to the women all around the world. And let me start the show by introducing our co-hosts here. Hi Melissa.
Hi, nice to meet you again.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
Hi Amalia.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now let me move on to the guests. We have two wonderful guests here. The first guest is Kristi Rudelius-Palmer. She is a Minnesota Human Rights Center Director and Humphrey Fellowship Program Director. Hi, welcome to the show. And next we have Kathya Cibelle. She is also a Humphrey Fellowship graduate from Brazil. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming, both of you.
Thank you for inviting.
Okay, coming to you, Kristi. Could you please tell us a little bit more about human rights, because since you are more into the human rights program, Humphrey Fellowship program and everything, so you have accomplished a lot too. I've heard that you have won awards too. So could you please talk a little bit about what is human rights and what is your role and what do you think is important to society?
Well, I have been very fortunate to be working in the area of human rights and human rights education and training. And so what I think is really important about human rights is that we basically all do have human rights and we're born with them. And oftentimes, unfortunately, they may be violated. But I think it is really important that we're teaching even our young children as early as 2 years old to obviously the elders in the world are what those human rights really are. And they're based around equality, non-discrimination, human dignity, and really just a continual respect for each other and how we interrelate.
Yeah, human rights, when you say it falls under various categories like, women rights, child rights, immigration rights. So what are the areas do you have expertise in? Like you say, which ones do you focus on mostly?
Well, oftentimes I've been considered sometimes a generalist in that I really have focused in the area of human rights education, and that's both focused on the kind of the formal education, so from these early ages through primary and secondary school on to post-secondary, but it's also in terms of community education. And so it's trying to help people realize their own human rights, be empowered to try and make sure that they're realized both for themselves as well as others.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious at the fact that the Hubert Humphrey Fellowship Program is now under your supervision. And I'm wondering, is it tied to human rights or is it like totally different, two different hats you're wearing?
I think it's definitely interlinked. So the Hubert H. Humphrey Fellowship Program actually was started back in 1978 under President Carter and actually Vice President Mondale, because they wanted to honor Hubert Humphrey and his strong role in trying to improve human rights and leadership and this international relations, how we can all interrelate and really bring the world together, I think. So in launching this program, it was one thing, both that program and then the Humphrey School of Public Affairs were a teaching lab were the two, goals that Hubert H. Humphrey wanted. And so this program really brings to this country mid-career professionals from all over the world to focus in on learning or building capacity in terms of leadership, human rights, and democracy building.
Okay.
What are some of the requirements to be part of the program?
One, I should have said that it's actually funded through the U.S. Department of State, and so all of your taxpayer dollars. In terms of qualifications, it's been said that it's even harder to be a Humphrey Fellow, and here we actually have two Humphrey Fellows, both Kathya and Melissa are former Hubert H. Humphrey Fellows. Then it's harder than basically applying to Harvard or or some of the high institutions. So you apply through your U.S. embassies back in your home country, and they're really looking at, I think, outstanding both service leadership skills. So these individuals who are coming to our country already are, I think, strong leaders in their own country in a variety of fields. They're on different themes. So we have a theme specifically that's focused on human rights and law, as well as anti-human trafficking. There are other fellows that are coming on public affairs, communications and media, public health, abuse, or ending drug abuse. And so those are kind of some of the themes that really, I think Humphrey Fellows already have really done remarkable jobs in their own home countries.
Great. How do people in other countries learn about this program, and the people that actually join the program, what is their career path once they complete the program?
Well, I think we should probably eventually talk to Kathya and Melissa about that. But I think career paths take a lot of different forms. We have currently a number of law enforcement fellows from different countries, from Pakistan, Trinidad and Tobago, Lebanon, who are coming here. And then they're building kind of their training capacities and really looking at human rights and trying to say, well, if I'm thinking about trying to create just societies and enforce rules in our own home countries, what does the human rights, how does that play in? That means, okay, we should not be torturing in our, police forces, or it means that when we're trying to intervene on domestic violence in the homes, how do we actually do that, both respecting families and yet trying to make sure that women and children or others who might be abused are basically not, are out of harm's way. In terms of career development, I think this program, many times, as we had been talking about earlier, there may be fellows that change paths of careers after they come to this country for the 10 months. And it sounds like you can relate to that, Melissa. Others may be just trying to further develop and figure out how can they jump that, to the next promotion. And I think this international experience, they get to meet basically mini UN. They're a part of a mini UN here in this country, because there's around 170 fellows that come every year, and they're placed at 14 different universities.
How many do you have at the U this year, or this past?
We have 23 at the University of Minnesota. We have the largest group because we have two groups, one focused on this human rights and law, and the other one on public affairs and policy. Most campuses only have probably around 10 or 12.
Yeah, we were 14 the year I was in.
So people are coming basically with a student visa, and from there they apply to the program? Is that the way it works?
They actually are non-degree students, so they come in on a J1 visa.
Okay.
That's supported, then they do get a stipend while here that hopefully covers their
some rents and nothing much else.
Yes, exactly. I know that the budget is really, it is tough. And some of the requirements while they're here is they are able to do professional affiliations, which are externships with various agencies that will help augment their career development and their professional development skills. So we've been very blessed because Minnesota has hosted a number of our fellows over the years, whether they're the different organizations like Advocates for Human Rights, whether it's a law firm, whether it's Hennepin County, many of those agencies, and as well as Ramsey.
I interned with NPR and with Channel 5 when I came.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because at the time I came, there was a whole mix: journalists, lawyers, doctors. It wasn't just focused on. It seems you're focused on law now more than.
Well, because you came in actually on a human rights and law, and so there's creative ways to kind of think about this. You also ended up going down a media track as well.
That's true.
And interned. Where did you intern?
MTN Television.
Minneapolis Television Network. And then she actually did an interview and a series of cable shows called Prisoners Behind the Bar?
Yeah.
No.
Behind the Bars Voices and Stories from Prison.
Oh.
Little advertisement here.
Okay, and regarding, I heard that you have a huge, like an online library for human rights. Could you please talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We have it's definitely the largest online human rights library in the world at a higher education institution.
Wow,
and it's available in 10 different languages, so you can find both the core human rights documents in your number of languages, as well as then we've been adding on more secondary human rights education resources. So how do you begin to think about children's rights? And you can go and take a look at a study guide and begin to think through women's rights or indigenous rights and how you might be able to advocate or educate in your own home communities.
Wow, and I heard you won a Honorable O'Brien Award for the human rights. And could you talk a little bit about that too, your achievement?
Well, human rights, it's called Human Rights Educators USA. It's a new national network trying to bridge a lot of us who are working in the human rights education field. And so I was honored to be the first Ed O'Brien Award recipient for that.
Congratulations.
Working on national initiatives.
You deserve it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, we've also right now are really trying to bridge a lot of higher education institutions and develop a consortium as well for those institutions working on human rights education. And there's a new master's program on human rights that's going to be launched at the Humphrey School of Public Affairs and the College of Liberal Arts at the University of Minnesota. So hopefully we'll have more leaders out there working in this area.
How long have you been in this human rights
Field.
Oh, a long time. Now I'm showing my cards, at least over 30 years. And I've worked at the University of Minnesota since 1988.
So is there something that you think you really want to accomplish, something left that you want to accomplish?
Yes, I really believe that human rights education is not only about the content around rights, which is so important, because I do think when we know our rights, then we can hopefully try and prevent violations from occurring. But I also see it as a very important part of the climate of the learning environment that we're creating, whether it's in our schools, whether it's at higher education institutions, that you want to make sure that everyone can really achieve or find their passions and purpose for doing the public good. And I would say for human rights and the environment. So I'm really interested in trying to create those spaces and places. And here you'll have this as my long-term vision. I really want Minnesota to have a national human rights learning laboratory and museum. So
definitely.
I think we can create it and somehow build it.
Yeah. See, you need to have the goals. Once you have that set up, I think you will reach there. First you need to have the goals for
have to have that goal
and
plan.
since you have been in this industry for a long time, so I'm sure you'll be there. Congratulations. I mean,
Thank you
all
very
the best too.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay. And so shall we now, we are all the way halfway through the show. We'll just move on to the next guest here. Hi.
Kathya.
Kathya Cibelle. So who is a Humphrey Fellowship graduate in 2011. She's from Brazil. Thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So you're from Brazil. If you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about when did you come and what made you to come here and to continue and become an attorney here? So could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I came here in July 2010 as a Fulbright Humphrey Fellow, and so I was, my headquarters was in the law school, in the University of Minnesota Law School Human Rights Center, under direction of the Kristi, Rudelius-Palmer. And so back in Brazil, I am a lawyer. I'm still a lawyer. I currently work for company, a multinational, that it's actually an American-based company, but with a presence in 80 countries, and including in Brazil and most countries in Latin America. So currently, I'm responsible for the Latin American operations.
Wow.
So just for you to see how important the human rights is for the corporate world.
Definitely.
That's probably one of the reasons why they wanted me, because of my background that included human rights, criminal law. Well, I came here. I spent this time as a Humphrey Fellow. I did a professional affiliation in a TV here. But I had, well, before I came here, and besides being an attorney, I was also in a TV show in Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so I had this experience. So then I also went to have a professional affiliation with a congressman here in Minneapolis. Then I was invited to work for International Criminal Tribunal for former Yugoslavia. So I spent a year there. So that was a great achievement for professional and personal. And then I came back. I went to the business world.
Okay.
And this is the very short version of my life in these last 6 years.
Oh, okay. So you said you were in business before becoming an attorney, or you?
I was back in Brazil before I came in the Humphrey Fellowship program. I was a criminal defense attorney.
Oh, okay. So you were always an attorney.
Yeah, well, and human rights. Both were together.
Okay. So, but isn't that interesting? So when you're talking to your clients, you have to be, when you're talking about human rights, there are different cultures associated with it, right? So when you're talking to them, they're from different backgrounds, different cultures. So how do you make them understand the human rights without affecting that sensitiveness? You know what I mean?
Well, when I was in Brazil, that was the easiest thing, because either they were Brazilians.
Yep.
And, well, they had everybody one thing in common. They were behind bars.
Oh, okay.
And for me, it mattered a lot to help them, because, I was the person that they had. And it was between, I was the connection between them and the world outside. So I didn't think there was any problem regarding these type of things. We did have some clients that were arrested for accused of international trafficking, that they were coming from mostly Africa and Middle East. And to tell the truth, I had a great conversation with them, because I was the only attorney in the region that was able to speak English. So I was kind of the light in the end of the tunnel, because they were not able to communicate with anybody else.
Okay.
So yeah.
But here, how do you feel? Do you see the difference when you're handling the clients here?
Well, here's the thing. I work for my clients, my corporate client, my business clients, although I work for a multinational, they are in Latin America. So they are in Brazil or in Latin America. So I can understand and I can relate to their culture, because they are either from home or they're close home.
Well, but I think also, even though there's cultural differences, human rights is supposed to be universal human rights, right?
That's definitely.
So it's supposed to be uniform across the countries.
Yes. What I feel that is the problem is that we have different issues around the world.
Yeah, okay.
So I know exactly what are the issues happening in Brazil, and probably some countries around Brazil. So currently now, probably there are a lot of people, maybe you guys, are thinking that it's sensitive, but it's fine. A lot of people probably are asking what's happening in Brazil. in the politics. And you all know that we had, after 500 years of colonization, we had our first woman president. And this, I think, was a big accomplishment for Brazil, but also for women. We had Michelle Bachelet, you know, that was president, the first woman president, also in Latin America. But I think the accomplishment, when we see a woman getting that high up, it's not her accomplishment only, but it's for all of us. And recently, she was suspended. She was actually, you know, for lawyers, they will understand it's not, she was not necessarily impeached yet. She was suspended for 180 days during a process that is going on in the Senate until they decide what's going to happen to her. And her vice president is now in charge. And just by the way, in her ministry, she had 8 women, and now in 21 ministries, he has no women, no black. And I'm very sad to learn that when he took over, his first decree was to extinguish the Ministry of Women, the Ministry of Human Rights, and the Ministry of Minorities, including LGBT and indigenous and black people. So this is what's happening now to my country that I love so very much. And
So it sounds like you kind of made progress, and then it sounds like now you're going backwards.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And what I heard, and I'm so frustrated to hear and to have to say, but what the president and people that support him say is that, well, the choice of the ministries, I get it, is based in merit, not in gender. It's fine. But when you say that, it's so machista, because it means that there are no women qualified, you know, in the height of the importance of the ministry. That's incorrect. Brazil is more than filled with competent
qualified women
to do it. And this is just incredible that we, you know, we are in 2016 and we still needed to hear this type of thing.
They
But
totally.
It's really interesting, this women or woman theme, because just yesterday I saw a video of a handful of countries, maybe more like 8, where women leaders are really growing. And I was really surprised to see that one of the countries is my home country. So I think this women's this women's empowerment is happening very rapidly, but there are still struggles in terms of it's still a man's world out there.
That always is there,
you know, even in this country, we haven't had a woman president yet. And
we will have soon, I believe.
Well, we will see what will happen with this election. But you know, even for this country, it would be a great accomplishment to have a woman president. I think, as you said, it's not just the triumph of the woman itself, but it's the triumph of all the women, because she's an example and she's a leader, and there are a lot of very capable women here to do so many different things. And just that empowerment is, in my opinion, is very powerful. So I am curious, you see what's going on in your country, and now you're living here, you're experiencing a different culture. Would you consider going back to Brazil, or would you compare and contrast how you feel now that you have experienced the U.S. culture? You talked about the nuances of the program and how you're able to help your fellow country
Brazilians.
country people. in Brazil because you understand the culture, you understand the system, you understand the issues of what is going on. How would you feel going back, and now that you've been here for a while and you have all this knowledge about human rights, and that you work in this corporate environment?
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful question, and I don't know how short I can be in answering this. But well, first I spend more time in Brazil than here, actually, currently, because of my work. And so I needed to travel so much that when somebody asks me where I live, I say the name of the air company that I travel, that I'm not mentioning, but so I think that somehow, as human beings, as women and as a professional, we are able to give our little bit to anywhere we go. And I'm sure that I left something of my cooperation in Brazil. Probably I left something in here, hopefully with the Human Rights Center, with the group of people that now I know so well and became my good friends in this city or even in this country. Also in places that I have worked or lived, like the Netherlands, working in the worst that there is, crimes against humanity. So I think it's we as people, we are whole. We are not just a compartment. So we are everything, especially when we are talking about a woman. So I believe that I leave a little bit of me everywhere I go.
But it's amazing, right? We talk about human rights, women's rights, there's peace rights, so many rights out there. And what is the difference between this human rights and those rights? You know what I mean? What would you say?
Well, I think that a part of it is the responsibility. It's bringing it forward, because rights are only so much in terms of the laws that we might have on a paper, but it's trying to make those real, and it's our responsibility, whether it's individual responsibility or if it's our collective responsibilities with different groups that we're associating.
So there's always a problem in that there is abuse of human rights. That is where the issue comes.
Definitely.
And not only we're trying to help other people, but we also face our own struggles, you know.
Yep, definitely.
So we are human beings. We face probably
we face there's discrimination, and we're talking about the whole gender issues right now. There's equality. Everyone knows how are we being paid equitably for the same amount of work.
Definitely, that was quite. I'm sorry, we have to just end up this. We are out of time now. Thank you so much. It was such an interesting topic. So it was really nice. Thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts. Very interesting.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you again.
So thank you so much for watching the show, and see you all next time.